everybody I talked to, every place I went, sometime during the conversation, they would say to me that you and your husband Scott have been their inspiration for what they were doing, for the way they were working, the way they were working with stone, how they felt about it, and the philosophy and sense of it.
Did they go into our excessive age? Because when Scott and I built this house, I was in my 70s and he was in his 90s, which makes it much more unusual. We built in about 9 or 10 stone buildings, some large, some small, in Vermont, and I was then in my 40s and Scott was in his 60s. But to come up here and do it in the 70s and 90s is something else again.
Well, if they don't say something about it, it reassures me.
It can be done. Yeah, it can be done.
But it's important to me. And the other thing that's important to me is that you are a woman. Most people that I've talked to who've done the building,
stonemasons are men. And yeah, I'm a lady mason. Yeah, I put in the corner stakes to everyone's discredit. They said the soil here is terrible. It's just clay, and even a four-wheel drive pickup truck got stuck in it. But the view was excellent, and I thought we could build up the place. And we did put a lot of gravel around the house. It's still a bit wet in the cellar, but I have drains to carry it off.
You drew the plans, and you actually did them?
There was no architect, no constructor, no contractor here. I did it all.
Now, when I look at the front of the building, it's especially beautiful, and I like the balcony. And you said that was something that you brought from being in, where was it?
I lived in Austria, yeah. I lived in Europe and liked the simple Austrian construction very much. And I didn't think, well, we'll build an Austrian house, but as it evolved, it turned into that type of house. And it has a balcony on the east where the sun comes up, the early sun, and a balcony over the water where the sun sets, and the south gets most of the sun. The floors are stone, sort of like a monastery floor. I like it. And you needn't sweep it too often. If it gathers dust and dirt, it just looks like outdoors. So it's the kind of house I like to live in. And the windows have there are no curtains, and there are no rugs. It's very easy to take care of, which is the kind of house I like.
Well,
yeah, we heat with a fireplace and a stove in the winter, and I cook with a wood stove in the kitchen. That's all the heat it has. And a stone floor. But people say, isn't this floor cold in the winter? But I pad around on it barefoot in the winter. It holds the heat much better than a wooden floor would, from the fireplace or from the sun. Yes, and I saved some of what I consider the nicest for the fireplace. And then people stood outside and said, and who did the chimney? I said, well, who do you think? I laid all the stone. I did the chimney too, as well as the floors. We had a cement mixer when we started here, and Scott even had a little motor for it, but we didn't like the noise and the smell of it. So he took that off, and then he thought, why clean this mixer every time we do a little bit of work, because we didn't work whole days at it. This was only part of our activities. So he gave the mixer away, and they changed to a wheelbarrow, and the whole house was really built mixed it with a shovel and a wheelbarrow. And there's only 4 acres, but if it has a garden and a greenhouse and a house and a workshop and an outhouse, then you're set.
Now you also have still some rocks.
Still have rocks in case I want to put a sauna or something of that kind of, but I don't know that I will. Yeah.
Something else that you think you might like to build.
If I do, there are plenty of rocks around. And I think if you do the work yourself, a stone house is just as cheap as a wooden one. If you order it built, if you have a stone house built or buy a stone house, it's very expensive. But if you do it yourself, we never counted our labor. It was our fun, it was our sport, our tennis, our golf. every stone is interesting. Every stone you find in the road, you see the possibilities in it and chuck it in the truck and bring it back home and have it ready for the next building. And when you're looking for stone, you know about where to find which stone. Yeah, there are gaps in between these stones, and I fill those up. And one person should really do the pointing, because in Vermont I had various people would come and help me. My mother, a stylish lady from Florida, would come up and want to help Helen point, but she would do it differently. And I think that there ought to be one sort of stroke and one manner of doing it in the pointing. So I did it all. And of course the mixture for pointing is very much finer. There it is 3-to-1, like the cement people want you to use.
You did the pointing with this, with the...
Scott mixed in a wheelbarrow, and I'd have a trowel and handle it that way. It's really a very good occupation for amateurs, because you can learn how to do it very well, and you can do it with simple tools, and you can do it with native materials. We started with one room off an old farmhouse in Vermont. There just was no living room. There was a kitchen and 2 bedrooms. We wanted another room to sit in and a fireplace room. So that was my first trial at stonework, to put about I don't think it was 20 feet square, attached to the old farmhouse. That was the first fireplace we put in, and the first floor I put in. And once we'd done that, I was off. Scott taught me how to do it, and from then on, I didn't let him handle the stone. He could mix the concrete. I did all the stonework. People could hand me a stone. I'd say, well, that one over there or that one there.
Oh, very good.
But I was the one that put it in and enjoyed it thoroughly. I think sugaring, making maple syrup and maple sugar in Vermont, and the house building were the things I enjoyed the most. And I think Scott liked it too, even better than gardening. Well, we've just lived what we considered as a decent, simple, independent, self-subsistent life, which we call the good life. But I see a lot of ads in the New Yorker and other magazines of the good life, which means the high life.
Yes.
This is certainly not high life.
It's obviously suited you.
Yeah.
I know what I was thinking. Another name I hear occasionally is flag, who is apparently someone who did stonework. Yes, it's the flag method that Scott first read about years and years ago, maybe 50, 60 years ago. And he was an architect and a builder, and he constructed stone houses, I believe it was in New Jersey and New York, in the suburbs. And he was the man who had the 9-to-12 mixture, which I said we didn't quite try. His houses were quite elaborate, and he put up a complete form outside, put his stone against it, and had a complete form inside. So it was quite different than our way of construction. We just put a form on the outside and the inside and gradually built it up and transferred our forms up, and just homemade forms. He had a complete form for his houses. So Scott learned from reading about that. I don't know that we ever even saw any of his houses. We saw pictures of them. And it was a rather fussy, elaborate way of building. And that started Scott off. But I don't know anyone who, in between Flag and us, none that we knew that had done this sort of stone construction. But it's called the Flag method.